Welcome to Revolutionary Motion, where we show you tennis from a different perspective. This is why jumping has a bad influence on most of your tennis shots. Let's look at the forehand for a second. Whenever you're setting up to hit a forehand, you have a specific contact point in mind that you're aiming to hit the ball in. Now, that contact point usually does not consider a jump. So if you are now jumping into your shot, most of the time you have to readjust your contact point, which keeps it away from the ideal contact point that you're aiming for in your brain. So that means your shot will be very improvised and will be very difficult to control. Now let me go into a little bit more detail about this. Whenever you jump a bit too early in comparison to when you're trying to jump, you're going to end up being too high above the ball. So most of the time you will see your balls ending up in the net because you're above the ball too much. Whenever you're jumping a little bit too late comparing to what you had in mind, you're going to end up too much under the ball and you're more likely to miss the ball deep. So why do you see some professionals jump into their shots? Most of the time that's the case because they didn't have enough time or misjudged the ball and thus couldn't set up in the perfect contact point for themselves. So they jump up to try to get the same angle off of their body with their racket so they can use the most ideal technique possible for that scenario. Now, one thing to note though is that when players jump into their shots, you will never see them raise upwards while they're hitting, while they're making contact with the ball. If you look closely in slow motion, you will actually notice that most players that do this correctly jump up first, and when their body is about to start going down again, that's when they make contact with the ball. So throughout the contact point, the height of their body does not change. They're not going up or down. Now obviously, since this is not their ideal shot, you ideally want to stay away from that. And that you can clearly see when you look at the warm-ups of those players when they warm up with each other, because what happens in a warm-up is that the players play towards each other in a nice fashion so they can warm up their strokes. So that means they are way more likely to set up perfectly for those shots. If you look at someone like Alexander Zverev, for example, when he sets up for his shots in the warm-up, you will never see him jump. You will always see him stay low all the way throughout the shot. Same thing on the forehand side. Big step, he stays low throughout the shot until he's completely done with it. Now you could jump up whenever the contact point is over. However, that has no influence on your shot anymore. So in conclusion, you want to make sure that your whole body stays level throughout the contact point. Now that can mean that you're bending your knees because the ball is low, so you stay with bent knees throughout the shot. It could mean that your knees are straight, so you stay with straight knees throughout the shot. Or it could mean that you had to jump because you didn't set up very well, but at that point you have to learn how to hit the ball when you're at the peak of your jump.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.